Hello folks, welcome to Linux for Seniors. I have a new channel. My previous channel used to have 400 videos. Linux for Seniors is a project that I start early February. And my previous channel, as I pointed out, had 400 videos. My new one is already up to 43. My target audience is senior or anyone new to Linux. Linux is for every age. And I do encourage that you subscribe for multiple reasons. You can start and stop my videos at any time. You can get access to the growing library. And more importantly, you can also look me up on YouTube, even on your smart TV. So Linux for Seniors is what I left down on the panel bar. So today's video, I'm going to talk about this panel bar. I'm going to talk about maybe changing the color of that Linux Mint icon, or even rearranging some of these icons, or even these icons, and making them larger and the panel larger, and just moving the icons around. Stuff like that. You don't have to do any of this stuff, but more importantly, if you wanting some large things, maybe calendars or whatever it might be, it might behoove you to watch this video to understand the process. My videos on my YouTube site, my new one, Linux for Seniors, are all over 2 minutes. So subscribe or bookmark if you want to come back and see this. But anyways, folks, I am going to first just right-click on the panel bar. And again, if you're new to Linux Mint, this is the panel bar. I'm going to click on System Settings briefly and give you system information. Do not focus in on my memory, hard drives, or graphic card. I use these computers for other stuff. But this is Linux Mint 21.1 Cinnamon. So we're going to actually start by talking about the panel itself. Now I can do panel settings here. I can go here and also click here and do panel. And I can go over to here and go open up the settings and go panel. There's all kinds of ways of doing things. However, before we edit anything, I am going to advocate that you use a screenshot tool, just in case. I wouldn't say if you make a mess of things, but it's always a good idea to have the original settings before you start to change anything on your system. So let's go to the Mint menu, and I threw in this logo. It's normally not here, and I'll show that in a minute, just to remind you what this is, Linux for Seniors. But this is Linux Mint, and that normally is not here. Okay, I'll talk about the configure box in a second. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click that and look for a tool that's called SC, or Screenshot Tool. And I have a couple of different ways to put them in my favorites or panel bar, but normally you would just right click and add it to your panel, desktop, or favorites. I'll show you one of my little cutesy little tricks if you want to do it this way. That's all up to you. So that's a screenshot tool. So I'm going to put one on my desktop also. And if you're curious about making large icons on your desktop, then right-click, customize, first option, icon size. Normally, this is what it looks like. So I'll make this larger. And we're going to move on from here. So anyways, as we move along, we're going to talk about, again, the panel bar. So pardon me here. Just turning off my phone ringer here. Let's talk about this tool for a second. This is a single click and this will be a double click, so it really doesn't matter. I can use all three of these icons. I can even use this one if you like. But I'm going to click on this one and let you see the tools that are in here. I only use these two. I don't use selection. But anyways, this makes for a small screenshot of the active window. It never takes a picture of itself. And this is B screen. That would be wallpaper, all windows, and panel bar. Okay? So with that said, I'm going to close that, right click, and we're going to talk about panel settings. Panel settings. The settings on this panel, it lights up red. If you have not seen my video on large scroll bars and you want something like that, hit subscribe and go look for that video. I recently uploaded that for this distribution of Linux Mint. Now, there's a couple things to be aware of. What is the auto hide panel? And what are my options? Well, the always show is default. Okay, it always shows your panel. The auto hides the panel. Pretty much self-explanatory. What a lot of people get confused is, what is intelligently hide? Well, you notice the panel is sitting here, but I'm going to turn off the edit mode for a second, and then I'll bring up a web browser. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to change the wallpaper to something more colorful so you can see the separation in here. So I'll find desktop background. I'll just choose some of my weird wallpaper just to have some entertainment. So now you can see the black area here. This is part of your panel bar. Okay, and then more as you watch, I also have some other videos where you can make these fully transparent and also semi-transparent, but that's another day. So anyways, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about the panel, obviously. So intelligently hide versus the other two options of auto show and auto hide. What is the difference? So first of all, these are like that. And this is all of our defaults, right? Before I change anything though, wouldn't it be a good idea to have a starting point? Well, here's where the screenshot thing comes in. I can either click it here, and this icon, by the way, is simple screen recorder. I have to have this running the whole time because that's what's recording this video. If you feel more comfortable, I'll double click on this one. And then I'll move this out of the way just to let you see what I'm doing. I'm going to take a picture of this box for a window. I can even put it right on top. It doesn't matter. It never takes a picture of itself. So I'm going to take the screenshot. I just wanted to point out to some tools here. The pointer is the mouse pointer. I normally have that off, and I don't use the delay in seconds at all. Take the screenshot. Gives me a mini thumbnail, the name of the file, and where am I going to put it. A lot of times your default is pictures. I'm going to actually put it on my desktop. And I'm going to save it. So I'm going to leave that there. Then I'm going to click the center zone because there's different numbers in here. I'm going to do another screenshot, but I'm going to use this tool this time. Same deal. Take the screenshot and save it to my desktop. So that's 2. I'm going to go to my menu and use this icon this time. And click Window and take a screenshot and save that one. So I should have 3 of these. I'm going to get rid of this tool now. So now you understand it doesn't matter which side I use. So let me close this briefly and we'll reopen that. So these screenshots are the left zone, center zone, and whoops, did I do 2? Yes, I did. So that's a good idea why you should check these. What am I doing here? I'm hitting the space bar, by the way. So let me open up this again because we need a picture of this side. And I'll do a screenshot of that. Window only. Save. So that's 4 of them. Close. So I'm going to get the one that had the 2 on there. So this is center, and that's center. So one of these I need. So what I'm going to do here, manually close that, and I'm just going to delete that one. So now we have the 3. If you feel more comfortable, double click on these things. All I'm doing is, since I have double click turned on in my file manager, I can single click, space bar, and I can even aim for that and I'll get a full. And then space bar to close. Just some hidden tricks there for you. So more importantly, I have the right zone, left zone, and this should be center. Okay, now we can start playing. Right click, panel settings. So I'm going to change this from always show to intelligently hide, as I pointed out. Now I'm going to close this and I'm going to open up a web browser. So my web browser opened in a windowed environment. In other words, in a window. Now I'm going to drag this down here where it almost touches the panel bar, and what you're going to see is the panel will hide itself. Okay? It's still in a windowed environment. You can actually see underneath the wallpaper. Then I'm going to pull it back up in the air. Now the panel bar returns. Now I'm going to make it full screen. I'm just going to double click on that line, and now you can see that my web browser covers everything. And as I move it downstairs, it's like auto hide. And I'm at 140%, and hopefully you've seen my other videos on web browsers to know what I'm doing here. So anyways, I'm going to make this back up to what's a good comfortable size for you, 130%. And I don't really use the scroll feature. I use the scroll wheel on my mouse and the combination keys that I'm using on my keyboard. So I'm going to close this, or should I say minimize it. So as I move this toward the panel bar, it disappears. You get the idea? You can do this with any window. You can open up your file manager even and do this. I'm going to take the file manager and I can resize the icons on the fly. Hopefully you've seen my video on the file manager. I'm just holding down the control key with my left hand while scrolling up and down to make these bigger. And again, if you want these huge scroll bars like this, watch my other video for that on the same distribution, Linux Mint 21 Cinnamon. So anyways, I'm going to drag this box near that panel bar and it disappears. Same feature. Now I'm going to close this and reopen this. Right click, panel settings. So that's what that does. All right, I'm going to drag this up in the air. I'm going to make this a full box. Try to make it a full box. All right, I don't use these. So the panel height is literally the height of this thing. It's lit up red because I'm in edit mode. Okay, so you can also go in here and also click panel and edit mode here. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter. So let's talk about the height. I want to make this slightly bigger. I'm a senior. I like big things. I don't like the size of these icons. They're too small. The text is too small. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to crank this up to, what's the maximum? 60. The height of the bar. I'm not talking icons currently. Height of the bar. So I want that around 46. Now I need to take care of some things. First of all, have you got a good memory? If you do, then forget about the screenshots. If you don't, I would suggest screenshots of every zone here. But I'm really not going to do anything with this zone. But I just wanted to give you the example of screenshots. I'm going to deal with the left and right zones. So what is the left zone? That's this side, the left side. The center is this side and the right is this side. Okay? So the left zone, font size. You see this Linux for seniors? You normally don't have that. But more importantly, if you do put text in here, my stuff, whatever it might be, because I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to resize. Allow theme to determine font size and click that to the maximum size of 16. Now that's rather large. Take a look at the time date thing, Sunday. I'm going to change that also, right zone. I'm going to change this to maximum. Now I have rather large. The icons are still small. Where do I want to begin? Why don't we continue in this area since I'm already here? So we have colored icon size. This is a colored icon. So normally this is, maybe it's here, maybe it's not. But I'm going to crank that to 48. So that's the maximum for the panel height on that one, which is sufficient. Or you can leave it at the default, whichever. The symbolic icon size for these guys, on the other hand, I am going to go from 16 to crank these higher. Okay, now you can see it's starting to cut these off because my panel bar is not tall enough. So I'm going to crank this from 50 down to something more reasonable. I'm clicking manually. You can see them shrinking. Is that a comfortable size now? I'll leave it at 35. So the left zone, I normally don't use these things, but let me just let you see that it pretty much doesn't make a change currently. Okay, and then the same thing with the symbolic size. I made a mess of things. How do I know how to get back to my original numbers? Where's my left zone screenshot? Is it this one? No, that's the center. Again, I'm using the space bar on my keyboard. Left zone was set for scale panel optimally. 28 is what I started with. Okay, 28. Can I manually put in that number? Sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to put 21. I meant to put 28 and enter. Now I'm back to where the original settings were, right? Other than the font, because clicking on this screenshot, hitting the space bar, I had this allow theme to be determine font size. Space bar to close, click on the screen to be active. I set it for 16 for large text. Is that clear so far? Now I have stuff very large. Okay, so panel edit mode. I can also click in here if I needed to move icons, but I'm going to do this in a different way. I'm not going to talk about adding panels, and I want you to, I normally don't allow a pointer to pass through edges of panels, but you can also use that feature. Again, I don't use it. That's why I'm not really covering it here. That's a nice feature. That's a nice feature. especially for seniors or anybody that likes large panels. And it's got different zones. Again, I don't really play with this. Okay, I'm going to close that. So now we have resized panel bar. We're still not done yet. We can move icons around. We can make that icon bigger. So the Mint menu icon, let me talk about that and then we'll move across. I'm going to right click on this thing, hit configure. I'm going to right click on the Mint icon and hit configure. So what I'm looking for here is icon. If you don't like the black and white one, you want a green one. There's a green one for you. You don't like the green one, you want a weird one like this, then you can put a heart there. You don't like that one, you want a different kind of Mint icon, a green one with this swirly thingy. And then this is the cinnamon icon if you're curious. So you can see that I have a bunch of options in here. All right, so again, if you haven't seen my video on scroll bars and you like these big scroll bars, then go click subscribe or bookmark and go look for my video on that for scroll bars on Linux Mint Cinnamon. Now I'm going to do something weird. I'm only going to show this once, but more importantly, we're going to go back to the original icon, this one right here, when I get done. Okay, we're going to go back to this icon after I get done showing you this. So some of you folks have seen my videos from a couple of years ago, because again, this is, I used to have a different channel. So I created a folder in my home folder. Mr. Senior is my user. So in Mr. Senior, I created a folder called icons. And I put a bunch of icons in this icons folder. And I'm going to click on one of those icons. Now I've collected these over time. Some of them I downloaded off the internet. Some of them I downloaded and edited, and some of them I made. So I'm just going to click on this one to have fun. Just to have fun. Okay, now that's a stormtrooper. I may be silly, but I'm just showing you you can do silly stuff like this. I can even cut out the text. So I'm going to use a keyboard command called Control X, which cuts the text out, and just close that briefly. Now all I have is a stormtrooper that has the word menu. So I'm going to right click on his head and hit configure. Click in here once and hit my text that I pasted out of there. Click the icon and go back to the Mint menu icon, which I believe is this one. Now I'm back to standard, right? So this is just text you can put in there. So you can, I'm going to hit Control X again, and I can put even stuff like this. My stuff. And if you want a little separation, add another space. Okay? I'm adding, keep an eye on this, I'm adding another space in here. It just makes this wider. Okay, so now I'm going to change this back to what I had and hit Control V for paste. Linux for Seniors. Don't forget to subscribe. All right, so what about these icons? Do I need, if I wanted to move them around, do I really, let me add another icon in here just for having fun. So I'm going to drag this down here, and now I have a bunch of icons to play with. Let's say that solitaire game, whether you add it manually, and by the way, I'm sorry, but most people just right click on these things and add it to the panel. But that's all up to you. I just click and drag. That's just my method. But anyways, you can click and hold it and then move these around. So if I want it there or if I want it here. If you drop it over here, it's just going to snap back. So if you put it over here, it's going to snap back. But anyways, I can move these around, any one of these things, manually, without editing anything. If you need to move these around though, different animal, right click on the panel bar. You see this edit mode? Click it. Turns into a green line here. This is now maroon colored. This is kind of a bluish whatever. Now you can move these icons. You also notice there's extra icons now in here for some reason, right? Because those are applets that are currently, they're active, but they're not being shown because the icons are not, they don't have anything to show you. Let's put it that way. But more importantly, I'm going to take some of the common icons that you know about. So what are some of the common icons? We have the volume thing, we have the network thing, and the battery indicator. So I'm going to click that out so you can see what these are. So that's my keyboard, mouse, battery information. And this is obviously my volume key, right? And this is my favorite because I made something a favorite in my file manager. This folder here. Let me resize that so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, so that's a favorite. It shows up in this menu here under favorites. It's just documents. All right, no big deal. And I can actually click on it to open it, just like that. And I can use the spacebar to see what those files are. Now, what if I wanted to move these around? Well, there's two ways of doing this. You could right click on the panel this way. It lights up green. You can turn that off, go back in here and find your system settings either here or here, doesn't matter, and click panel and panel edit. And it turns kind of a weird color in here, but this is too many busy colors. But now I can move icons. And pick this battery thing up and put it next to Sunday. Then I'm going to turn it off. And then I'm going to turn it off. Now the battery thing is over here. It's actually easier to see if you just right click and do it here. It's a little bit more friendlier as far as colors are concerned. So if I wanted to move that volume thing back, I just pick it up and put it here. You have to be in edit mode though. Be careful dragging these guys. You don't need to do this in edit mode. You can drag these icons without being in edit mode. But I want you to also be aware that you can move some of these as a set. You remember what this icon does, right? That's your updater icon. So I'm going to move that over here. As soon as you get done, by the way, be aware of this. I'm clicking on this. Nothing's happening. Just don't pick it up and drag it around. My advice is to leave that alone in this mode. Turn that off as soon as possible. Now your icons will stay. And more importantly, when you click on them, you don't have the risk of dragging them around, right? And I can't do a move. There's no option in here for moving. I'm going to right click on that one. There's no option for moving. I can remove it, configure it, and click about. I need to be in edit mode to move these icons. Okay, is that clear so far? Okay. So I showed you the resizing. I showed you how to move this as a set. So we're going to move this, well, actually not. Yeah, we are. I'm going to move this back. So I'm going to pick this guy up and put him here at the end. So to be where we were. And turn this back on. Off, off, off. There we go. So some of these icons may not show up if you don't have favorites, for instance. Let me turn this off right here. Right click, remove. It removes the icon from display. It's still active though. And it removes the category out of your menu for favorites. So how do I reactivate that favorites? Right click. Or actually first I need to make something a favorite, right? So we're going to do videos this time. Right click, add to favorites. Can you do more than one? Absolutely. So if I do music and make it a favorite, then I'll have 2 stars here. And now that new icon will have 2 items instead of 1. Get the idea? And you can literally click that and it'll open up. So that's my music folders, and I can resize those if you want. Okay. So I have this star over here, and I'm going to show you something that after you do this. If you right click and hit applets, these are applets. There are many applets in here. The ones with the lock symbols you can't uninstall. The ones that are, they don't have, as soon as you click on one and it has this lights up, you can uninstall it. But you can see a lot of these don't. I don't suggest messing with that one. This is your time date thing, unless you know what you're doing. But what I'm going to do here is give you the example of turning off the favorites icon right here. I'm going to deactivate it from view. I'm not going to uninstall it because I can't. But I'm going to deactivate it by doing that, removing it from the panel. So does it remove it from the menu? No, it's still here. However, it's removed it from the panel view. When I reactivate this icon, you recall it was over here. When I reactivate this icon by hitting plus, it'll take that icon and put it right here, right next to the last icon. Okay? Anytime you deactivate icons, it will always put it here. So be very careful with this one. But I will show you how to recover from this right now. So if you do this by accident, a lot of people reinstall their system because they can't figure this out. So I'm going to deactivate that, and now my time date is gone. I'll put it back on the panel And they go, I don't want that there. I want this over here. All right, let me show you how to fix that. Right click, edit, pick it up, wiggle it in the corner a little bit and get it in there. Now it's back to in the corner and turn this thing off. Okay, I didn't get it quite in the corner because my separator is right here. But I could have gotten it in there if I squeezed it in the right spot. And I could still try to do that by moving this separator back in the corner. It's hard to miss this thing, but this is an actual separator. I'm going to stick it right next to that. Now I'm back to normal. This is only available on Linux Mint 21, that little separator. So anyways, I'm turning that off. There's another separator right here. It's hard to see. There's a tiny little line right there. But anyways, you can now see that. It's used to show desktop. This normally sits in your corner and nobody probably has paid any attention to that thing. So anyways, so if you are inclined to put this in between here, which is probably not a good idea, but you can, squeeze it in there. Now I have extra icons on the side. Depending on your speed, sometimes this thing doesn't trigger. There we go. Now, this is kind of a mess. Just trying to squeeze it right in between that little guy and that volume thing. And close. So that's how you move icons around. So applets are these guys. Desklets are these kind of things. You know, desklets. That's like the calendar. All right, let me cover this one more time. So moving these icons, you just click and drag. And if you wanted to put text, again, right-click, configure, add your own text in here. Call it whatever you want. Change the Mint icon to a black and white one to a green one. You just click that and go find it. Or you can put in your own icon if you like. What else did I cover here? Or not cover? The configuration box on this also has one more option. For some of you folks who may like this and some not. Open the menu when you hover your mouse over it. Let me activate that and let you see what it I don't use a delay. Okay, now I'm going to take my mouse pointer and I'm going to get anywhere near that Linux for Senior or the icon. It'll automatically open that. You got to click out of here to close it. This may be annoying to some people, but it may be a benefit to others. You know, I'm not clicking anything. I'm just moving my mouse pointer in the corner. Okay, so to fix that, right click, configure, and be aware of that option right here. It's normally defaulted off. Remember, if you do a screenshot before you started playing, okay, but I never made mention of the size of the icon, did I? I think I skipped over that part. So did we do a screenshot of this thing? We probably didn't. So let's do this without this in here for a second and do a screenshot of this. Window only. Because I don't, or do I have a screenshot? I don't think I have a screenshot of that one. I can verify that real quick. Let me hit the space bar. No, that's panel, 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 and that's this one. Okay, so 35 is the icon size. I want to make it bigger. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. It's growing right now. Now I'm hitting the tops and the bottom. It's probably too big, is it? Well, actually not. It'll probably work. Configure. I'm going to put my text back in here. Again, you can put any text you want, if you want to put text at all. What's best practices for these thumbnails? Well, I am going to advocate that you open up your file manager and create a folder. You can put it wherever you want. You can put it in pictures if you like. So I'm going to create a folder in my pictures folder of Mr. Senior, my user. That's the path. Mr. Senior Pictures. Right click, create folder. Screenshots. Panel. Whatever name you want to give it. So I'm going to open that. So my path is Mr. Senior Pictures Screenshots, right? So I'm going to drag the first one manually, and then I'm going to draw a box around those three to give you a different option for selection and drag all three in here. Then I'm going to take and hold down my control key while scrolling with my computer mouse to make these bigger. You can also resize the box to your heart's content. Now I'm going to take one of these things and hit the space bar to find out what this is. Well, this is left of panel, left zone. So let's rename that left zone. Right click, rename panel, left, good enough, right? Let's take a look at our date. Let's minimize that a little bit. So 226, so let's, because I clicked out of here, so I'm going to have to hit rename again, and I'll fix it just by clicking on the left side of that thing. So I'm going to put in -2, -26, and we'll just use the year 23. Why is it good to rename these things? Well, one is screenshots are always good to have a starting point. And again, if you haven't seen my video on scroll bars, go take a look at that. If you're wanting to use scroll bars, I don't really use them. I use my mouse for jobs like this. But some people like those things. But renaming your screenshots, because this just says screenshot, screenshot, screenshot. You really don't know what they are unless you're doing the double click to open that, or using my trick where you just hit the space bar on your keyboard to get a preview. That's all I'm doing here. And you can do this with photos too. But anyways, renaming your screenshots is a good idea. And more importantly, taking screenshots so you have some starting point in case you made a mess of settings. This is not only good advice for this, but any settings in your system. Okay? And if you're curious about that, I have some wallpaper in here. So I can, like that butterfly, I'm going to hit the space bar. I can get some preview. I can go full size. It's kind of a nice looking photo. I don't remember where I got this wallpaper from. I remember you can also set that as wallpaper. But more importantly, I'm going to go back to my screenshots. So you can resize these. Again, they can make them dinky if you like. But you want to rename them something that makes sense to you. And the reason I advocate screenshots is, again, if you're making system changes, it's always a good idea to find out, after I made a mess, how do I go back and fix this? Hence the word screenshots, and they're very small files. All right. So a recap of what you just saw today is I resized the text on both sides. I enlarged the icons. I made the panel wider. I showed you how to move these icons without doing anything other than click and drag. I showed you a little trick where you can drag some of your icons onto your panel bar or even in your favorites. Again, this is your favorites. Different from the favorites in your file manager. This is a favorite in here. In other words, this is not the same favorites I was referring to. I was referring to favorites in here, because if you right click on any of these icons, it says add to favorites, it adds it in here. Normally at the bottom though. Can you manipulate these icons around too? Absolutely. So if I wanted that card game over here and underneath that, I can move this around. Sometimes you gotta kind of squeeze them in there. Okay. And by the way, this resizes depending on how many icons you put in there. This keeps growing with you if you have the default settings turned on. There'll be something later on that I'm going to do videos on customization for all that stuff for the more advanced users or medium to advanced users as you grow with Linux. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with Mint. But I'm just covering the panel bar today. The only thing I didn't cover so far is moving this. So I'm going to do that now. Right click, move. Left and right zones just lit up in the top. Here's an example of the top. Okay. Depending on how you have this hide the panel bar business, if you are opening up, I have this auto intelligently hide. So when I click this and go full screen, sometimes this can be annoying. Because right now I'm aiming for the close, but I skipped over and hit the date. Get the idea now? Okay. If you leave the panel bar without auto hiding it, normally that will work okay. There's all kinds of things you can do. Now if I put the panel bar on the sides, you won't get this nice looking date thing. So let me do that and give you the example. See, the date thing is kind of cut off and I got less space in here because there's less space in the vertical position than the horizontal position. You can also flip this on the other side if you like. So there's some examples. These operate just the same way, but I got less space in here. That's why I prefer it either down here or up here. My preference is down here, just like the default. Plenty of space in here to add extra icons. Whether they be web-based icons, and I do have those videos to show you how to create web-based icons, usually in a couple of minutes after you watch my video. My videos, I do, again, they're longer than 2 minutes because I try to fully explain things. Hopefully some folks will appreciate that. Now I'm going to switch the wallpaper by right-clicking back to Linux Mint to make this darker. Okay. Some people like large calendars, some people like large panel bars. It's all up to you. On that note, I will say hopefully you subscribed, at least bookmark this. If you're wanting to see this on your big screen smart TV, go install the YouTube app or find the YouTube app and look for Linux for Seniors and bookmark that. That way you can watch it on your big screen also. Thank you for watching.